Good evening, George Orwell. Perhaps we should start with you telling us a little about yourself.
I like English cookery, English beer, French red wine, Spanish white wine, Indian tea, strong tobacco, coal fire, candlelight, and comfortable chairs.
Go on.
I dislike big towns, noise, the motor car, the radio, tinned food, and central heating.
Interestingly...
And modern furniture.
Quite.
George Orwell, whose real name was Eric Blair, was born on June 25th, 1903, in India. His father was a civil servant in the Indian government who worked in India until he retired. The baby Eric returned to England with his mother before he was a year old. The strong family ties to India, however, meant that he was to feel an affinity with the East into his manhood. In spite of his avid reading and real intellectual development, he did so little official academic work at Eton that entrance to university was impossible. He left school and joined the Burmese military police, back to Asia where he'd been born and where his father had worked. In November 1922 he arrived in Rangoon, the Burmese capital, and a part of the vast British Empire. He was just 19, and it was his first taste of real life. In the 1920s, Burma was administratively part of British India, but where India had been offered advancement to self-government, Burma had not. Burmese nationalism was on the increase, and even Buddhist monks travelled around preaching revolution against the British rule. Steps were taken towards self-government, but they were never enough. Part of the problem was that the nationalists themselves could never agree on who was boss or what should be done next. In Mandalay, Orwell joined this group at the police training school. After 9 months of instruction in law, languages, and police routines, he was sent to his first field posting. Fortunately for him, it was a relatively peaceful spot. However, he was a policeman and part of the occupying force, so naturally the Burmese were generally hostile. He didn't easily fit in with his English mates either, so his existence was solitary. Eventually he produced a novel, Burmese Days, which gives us clues to his response to this experience. He had no false idealism about the Burmese. They were people like the rest of us, some good, some bad. But the British ruthlessly made huge profits by trading in Burmese resources. Out of it, the Burmese got little or nothing. For Orwell, there was no justice in this, and it could not go on. He had gone east to help run the empire. None of the developments in civil organization, in commerce, in railways, could make up for the fact that the British were oppressors.
Towards the end of his career, he penned the confessional essay, Why I Write.
All writers are vain, selfish, and lazy. And at the bottom of their motives there lies a mystery.
And so you have no control over what you write.
Writing a book is a horrible, exhausting struggle, like a long bout with some painful illness. One would never undertake such a thing if one were not driven by some demon one can neither resist nor fully comprehend.
1984, with its thought police, Room 101 and Big Brother, has given us a language with which we can defy oppression. What demon drove you to dream up 1984?
I do not think one can assess a writer's motives without knowing something of his early development. His subject matter will be determined by the age in which he lives, but before he ever begins to write, he will have acquired an emotional attitude from which he will never completely escape.